when I was told by Rebecca and Richard that they wanted me in this forum today to speak about my professional journey, of course, that was a little bit daunting because I'm not exactly young. How do you put, 32 years of professional work in one slide? And then when I finally saw this, I said, wow, that really puts a lot into perspective, right? I distinctly remember in 2009, I was being interviewed by a person, Kiwi, named Steve Barker, for the position head of HR for the Asia-Pacific region of Cytel, one of my former employees. While sifting through my CV, he asked me, of course I was prepared, right, for all the questions that might be thrown at me. But his question had me momentarily taken aback. His question was, after sifting through the CV, he asked me, so, Haidee, how does a girl from San Pedro Elementary School, how did a girl from San Pedro Elementary School make it to Harvard Business School? What motivated you? And because I was surprised and was not prepared for that question, my default tongue-in-cheek answer. I looked at him squarely in the eyes and I told him, fear. Fear of poverty. I bet ya, he surprised me, but I surprised him more. I think it's important to take a look back because my journey really started in a small, remote barrio, this is early 1970s, in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, called Purok Matahimik. Okay? Where the roads were unpaved and electricity was aandap-andap. Very intermittent if you're lucky. One Saturday afternoon, I distinctly remember this. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. My sister invited me to watch TV. You know the kind of TV that's in a box? Yeah, millennials, it happened, okay? To watch it from the open window of one of our neighbors. Because, of course, only family members are given the VIP seats inside the house. Little did I know that that particular Saturday night, my life would change. Because on that television, there was an ad. And the ad was that of a woman very nicely dressed up in power suit. I distinctly remember her. She was alighting from a snazzy-looking car, red sports car. She was holding a briefcase, and then, after that, she walked confidently up a flight of stairs leading to a high-rise building. That created such an impact. Because that world that I saw was so different from the world that I was seeing around me. So I rushed home and told my dad, Dad, I know now what I want to be when I grow up. And my father, of course, asked me, what is it? I said, I want to be just like that woman I saw on TV. I didn't know what she did for a living. I didn't know who she was. But it was very clear in my head that I wanted to be just like her. That late afternoon, in that remote barrio in Palawan, I learned how to dream. You see, in the place where I grew up, it was very difficult to think of what you call a parallel universe or an alternate reality of bounty and glitz. My father was only a high school graduate. My mom was the only one amongst a brood of 12. Remember, walang electricity. Okay? Naging hobby ang paggawa ng baby. Okay? To graduate from college. My grandparents, all four of them, died without knowing how to read or write. All throughout my elementary years, I had to walk 3 kilometers going to, I said San Pedro Elementary School in my CV, but really it was mababang paaralan ng San Pedro. And then 3 kilometers back. During summers, what do you do now during summers? You plan a vacation somewhere? In my case, when I was growing up, my summers early in the morning were spent waking up very early so that I could pick up cashew nuts that we would dry up and sell for money, of course, towards the end of summer. Afternoons were spent plying the dirt road, carrying, not a styrofoam, but a plywood box full of ice drops that I was selling for 25 cents a piece. Again, millennials, that happened. Okay? And fiesta nights, because summers are full of fiestas, right? Fiesta nights were spent selling barbecues, not fishball ay barbecue, medyo social content. Okay? And candies. And whatever money I earned from those, pulled, so that at the beginning of the school year we'd have money to buy school supplies, and most importantly, rubber slippers. Because when you walk those unpaved streets, of course, the slippers get worn out quite easily. But very early on, during that life, I learned that it's great to have good dreams or big dreams, but it is more important that you act on it. That aspirations are nothing without action. Okay? It is important that you act on it. Okay? Luckily for me, in spite of that very humble beginning, my parents imbued in us the value of hard work and being values-driven very early on. My first job was as a food server at Shakey's New Frontier, which is now, what's New Frontier now? I think it has a snazzy name already. It's in Cubao. Gateway. It used to be New Frontier, believe it or not, right? So I was a food server, and I took on that job while I was finishing my thesis in UP, because it was hard for me to ask money from my parents, because I knew that there were other siblings that were being sent to school. And so I took on that job. But because I was only a part-time employee, I only had 4 hours. What to do with my time after that? I would punch out, not biometrics, punch out, okay? But not removing my uniform. That's me, believe it or not. Okay, not removing my uniform. And then, I'd volunteer to help the other people in the back office, in the back room. So within a matter of months, I learned all the 9 basic positions at that time in Shakey's, including those that were traditionally reserved only for men, like oven man, fryer man. I learned it all. In 5 months, I got promoted to management trainee. So that kind of became the tenor of my life. People often say, well, Haidee is a slave driver. Maybe so, but the number one and the biggest slave of them all, myself. I just keep on working my ass off. But also, because of the things that I went through, continuous learning became part of my DNA. Self-renewal. When I was a food server, I took up management training, as I mentioned, so that I could climb up the corporate ladder. At some point in time, I got promoted to HR in another company, but then I didn't know anything about HR. And so I decided, because I took up BS Community Nutrition in UP, so I didn't know anything about HR. So what I did was I enrolled through People Management Association of the Philippines program. I went to UST and took a diploma in human resource management. By the way, the only one enrollee of that program who was paying her own way, because everyone else was being sponsored by their respective company. My boss refused to sponsor me, so I told him, let me just take out a company loan. I'd pay for it myself. When it became very obvious to me that HR was no longer the path that I wanted to take, I started building my portfolio of experiences and exposure to include general management. And so when I got my first contact center job, I negotiated very hard with my boss so that he'd pay for me to go to Harvard. Okay? He told me, I remember once that I was telling him, boss, I really wanted to take either exec ed or an executive MBA, and I want to do it in INSEAD. And they said, why do you want to go to INSEAD? I said, well, because I heard they go to wineries every weekend. Because it's in Fontainebleau, in France. And then he said, okay, I don't like that idea, but I'll make you a deal. You apply in Harvard. If you get accepted, I'll pay for it. Ha! Did he pay for it? So renewal became really a constant also in my life. But in spite of the fact that it was really hard work, it is also very important for me, and I think for every one of us, that we enjoy the journey, because it's not just about the destination. It's also about how you get to the destination. So, enjoyment. Enjoy the journey. In my case, I remember this one Monday morning, I remember this one Monday morning, and I was interviewing. I was with ACS, a contact center company, and I felt so tired. I was interviewing someone and I was fighting back sleepiness. Guess what? Because the entire weekend I was out partying with clients. I was nursing a hangover because it was the early beginnings of the contact center industry, if you may recall, right? It was wild, wild west. Okay? And so I decided then this has got to stop. And so, where in the world could I find a place where I would not be contactable? Underwater. So I learned scuba diving, and I am now a certified PADI rescue diver with more than 350 dives under my belt. And in June, I am scheduled for a 10-day dive trip to Apo Reef, to Bataha once again, and Busuanga. People might think that I work damn hard, and yes, I do that. But I enjoy harder. Okay? Gardening, farming, traveling, these are all sources of fun and entertainment for me, but also a source of learning. In 2016, another turning point happened. I was given an opportunity to spearhead the countryside expansion of Saitel. Mind you, at this point in time, I was just so happy enjoying the fruits of my labor. I was very content with ticking off items in my list of items that I wanted to buy for myself. I kid you not, I carried that for the longest time inside my wallet. I wanted a Cartier watch, I wanted stud diamond earrings, all of those. I was slowly but surely ticking them off. It was all about me. Until one chance encounter in Robinson Supermarket in Puerto Princesa. It was a Saturday. I was approached by a woman, a manang, who approached me and said, "Are you Miss Haidee Enriquez?" I said, "Yes, I am." And then she said, "I was in Saitel last Friday. I attended the orientation for new employees. I want to thank you very much." And then she held my hands. She said, her story was that, she said her son went through college, graduated. The family had to borrow money from everywhere just to send him to school. But he graduated, did not find any work, got addicted to Dota, and would spend hours and days on end playing Dota. Until we started offering Saitel Academy in Puerto Princesa, a program which I championed and actually won People Program of the Year in PMAP. She said, "Oh my God, it's as if yung tarantado kong anak namatay and replaced by another human being. Now, if we don't wake him up at 6:30, he gets mad because he'd be late." Then I realized that yes, it is important that we pursue our own dreams and aspirations, but in doing so, we can also take others with us in the journey. That's when I decided to craft my leadership brand, which you see now on your screen. What made it different from what I firmly believed in as a leader prior to that milestone moment was the inclusion of the words positively impact the communities where we operate. In 2021, I got another opportunity, this time to join MicroSourcing as their CEO. Can we move to the next, please? As Richard mentioned, HR to CEO, 19 years in the night shift to day shift, 4 full outsourced contact center to manage or hosted services. I kid you not, it was tough. So the recognition that was provided, was given to me by Asia CEO Award, was really a celebration of everything, I believe, that we were able to achieve in microsourcing and in Beepo. But just like the timeline that I showed at the beginning, what was happening in the background was even more juicier. When we asked Asia CEO, look, what's the timeline that we're looking at when we submit our papers after the nomination? They said, well, last year or the past 2 years. And I smiled. Because while that's what everyone is seeing publicly, the tremendous growth of microsourcing and Beepo, unprecedented in the history of Probe Group as a company, there was something juicier happening in the background. What was that? It was during that time that I had my heart broken. It was the time that I experienced betrayal of trust, the crushing betrayal of trust by someone whom I believed, take note the D, I was in a loving, committed, faithful relationship with. Imagine someone like me who thought I had accomplished a lot and could be proud and I have a lot to be proud of, did not date anyone for 11 years at all, so I could focus on my career, falling in love, and then experiencing that. Yes, it was a blow to my heart, but even more so, it was a blow to my belief in myself. My heart was broken, but my ego was in tatters, smithereens, right? But during those dark days, I went back to my true north. What's my true north? Who I am as a person and as a leader. And then my salvation was again that phrase, positively impact communities. I began to realize this is not just about me. My pain is so small as compared to the needs of the 9,000 employees of microsourcing that I could not afford to wallow in self-pity and self-reclamation because I have 9,000 people who are counting on me to go to the office with a clear head making right, value-based decisions for the company. So, what did I do? I showed up every day. Even though, during some of those ManCom meetings, I had to scamper back to the toilet to wipe away tears. I decided to heal myself. How did I heal myself? How did I do that? Well, meditation, prayer, Spotify. I kid you not. 1 week after the breakup, when all of those songs kinda resonate, I was like, oh my God, this song was made for me. I stopped listening. I scoured Spotify, created my own playlist that I listened to every single day. Simply refused to listen to anything else except those songs that reinforced my strength as a woman. My weekends, I did not go out and drowned my sorrows with liquor. I rewired myself. I listened to podcasts, TED Talks, particularly those about psychology and neuroscience. I purposely learned how to rewire my brain because I read somewhere, love is just like any emotion that is learned. And anything that is learned, if you try hard enough, can be correct, can be unlearned. But what, again, so that was what was happening in private. What was happening in public? That one. Tremendous growth of microsourcing. Provincial expansion. 4 sites opened in 1 year. 3,000 people impacted by the corporate social responsibility Balik Eskwela program that I promoted specifically for the people in the countryside, for the learners in the countryside. Last year, during that time that I was nursing this broken heart, we helped more than 3,000 public elementary school teachers in the countryside by giving them school kits, which included rubber slippers. You are loved, or I am loved, I am worthy, I am enough. I acknowledge my own self-worth. My confidence is growing. I am a powerhouse. I am indestructible. The future is an ideal projection of what I envision now. Those were the self-affirmations that I repeated and told myself every single day, at least once a day, absolutely at the beginning of the day, to heal myself. Fellow women in this room, if there's anything that you can take away from this 15-minute of conversation, I hope it will be this, that no matter the bad times, as Monica mentioned earlier, it will get better. And that, as Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.